Ellie Chowns.
Thank you, Mr. Efford. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairship, and I thank the honourable member for calling this debate, which is indeed important and very timely. I'd also like to thank all of the constituents who have written to me to share their concerns about fuel poverty, not just knowing that this debate is coming up today, but in fact over months and months, particularly in relation to the winter fuel payment, and I will come on to that later. But I want to start by just drawing the attention of the House to the fact that this is an incredibly important issue in my constituency in particular. I'll share with the House some statistics that I've just checked. So on the latest data, 22.9% of households in my constituency of North Herefordshire live in fuel poverty. That is far higher than the national average of 14.4%. That's according to the government's low-income, low-energy efficiency measure. Now, that's, as the measure says, fuel poverty is due to both low income and problems in the property, the lack of energy efficiency in the property, and indeed high fuel prices, as the honourable member has said. And in my constituency of North Herefordshire, nearly double the number of houses compared to the national average are detached houses. We've got a far lower proportion of houses that are on mains energy supply. All of these make it a particular issue in a rural constituency like North Herefordshire. Also, we have a far higher proportion of over 65s in my constituency, half as many again as the national average. All of these are contributory factors and mean that fuel poverty is an incredibly kind of real and presenting issue in my constituency. And I was just reviewing some of the emails that constituents have sent me in recent days, weeks and months, where they've talked about living with only one radiator on, the fact that no winter fuel allowance means they can no longer buy any coal for the winter. We still have constituents whose only source of heating is coal in my constituency. Very briefly.
I'm very grateful for her for giving way. I, like her, represent a rural constituency where over double the national average of residents use heating oil and gas. Would you give comment to how we can go about transitioning those residents to more sustainable and cheaper sources of fuel?
I thank the honourable member, and I absolutely do plan to comment on precisely that topic. So it's a huge, but I was telling the stories of my constituents. A lady who wrote to me saying, you know, she lives wrapped in blankets now. Constituents who have shared with me their particular needs relating to their ill health, their health conditions, and just how damaging it is not to be able to afford to keep warm. Now, the honourable member who brought this debate talked about the outrageous profits made by the energy companies, and I share his extreme frustration and distress at that situation. It is an area where I think the government could go even further in ensuring that we are not seeing essentially price gouging, where constituents struggling in fuel poverty are the ones who are basically bearing the costs. And at the same time, these big energy companies are making profits in the billions each year. Absolutely extraordinary.
On that point, will the honourable member give way?
Very briefly.
I thank the honourable member. Far be it from me to intrude on the grief of elected members in England and their constituents, but this is Westminster, which is currently responsible for energy laws across the UK. While devolved governments have a role to play in reducing fuel poverty, the biggest levers of change, surely the honourable member would agree, are in the remit of the UK government, such as the coupling of electricity prices, which are increasingly generated here on this island with the global gas market, and the nonsensical decision to cut the winter fuel payment, and the ongoing failure of this government to reduce fuel bills. They're going up for the third time since July.
I thank the honourable member for his comments, and I agree with him that we must see the decoupling of electricity prices from gas, which currently contributes to the problems that people face. Now, we've established that the problem of energy poverty, fuel poverty, is related in part to prices, and government does have levers to control those, but also to government policies. And in particular, I'd like to talk about three areas: targeted support to households in fuel poverty, insulation policies, how we deal with the housing stock that we already have, and how we ensure that future housing is future-proofed, so that nobody who moves into a new house has to pay through the nose for their energy. So just briefly, on targeted support, I have spoken previously a number of times in this House to criticise the government's nonsensical decision to completely cancel the winter fuel allowance for all except a small number of people. There are very large numbers of people in my constituency who have written to me, who still do, expressing their great distress at the impact that this has had on them. I cannot urge the government too strongly to reconsider, to ensure that next winter we don't have these thousands in my own constituency, tens of thousands, millions of people across the country who are facing increased fuel poverty because of the government's decision to stop the winter fuel allowance for so many who do still need it. We also need targeted support. I welcome the comments of the Honourable Member there on a social tariff, help to repay for those who are in energy debt as well. But to move on to the question, the fundamental structural question of the quality of our housing, essentially the problem is that our homes leak heat. People are paying money for energy, which is going out the windows, up the chimney, out of the roof. It's a total waste. What is the government going to do to tackle this? The previous government destroyed the energy efficiency programmes. We need a nationwide, house by house, street by street home insulation programme to ensure that the energy that people buy stays in their homes. I really hope that the Minister will be able to make some concrete commitments to go further and faster to insulate homes. And lastly, new homes must be built to the most highest possible energy efficiency standards. If the cheapest time to insulate a home is at the point of construction, why are we not ensuring that all new homes are built to zero carbon standards to ensure that all of the heat in the home stays in it? Thank you.